back. You're still watching Nile Cruise, and moving now to another topic, and it's going to be about the celebration of Egyptian with several festivals these days and holidays. And Shem al-Nasim is definitely one of those celebrated this week, which remains to be distinctive. The feast, which means in English, breathing the breeze, is one of the celebrations that bring both Muslims and Coptic Christians together. We're going to be speaking about this topic and more with the editor-in-chief and journalist Hedayat Abdel. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Well, first of all, how do you see the idea of the spirit of festivals in Egypt uniting us, or whether it's a public festival or a Muslim or Coptic festival?
I would say that the first point that attracts me as we are sitting here along the Nile is that the daughters and sons of the Nile are one. And we have the beautiful Nile beside us, which unites all Egyptians. And this spirit of the Nile, the love for the Nile, parading in the Nile, having festivities in the Nile, is the core of the line of life of Egyptians. And I think that the celebrations of Shem al-Nasim and what is to come, which is the liberation of Sinai on the 25th of April, has beautifully given the outside world a message that Egyptians are one. They are not a man and a woman. They are not Coptic and Muslims. They are one entity. And I think that no other place in the world would you have this concrete solidarity between different religions like in Egypt. We all grew up with, if you are Muslim, then you have Copts as family. If you are Copts, you have Muslims as family. And of course, you have a lot of intermarriage also, though it is not allowed, but it happens. So on the whole, I think that we are an example of human solidarity.
Yes, and like you mentioned, we have this kind of connection that goes from very long way and history. Do you think, today with technology and with the speed of life, things are different? Because we, if you remember like 20 or 30 years back, we used to have this neighbors opening the doors together, and Muslims, and there was nothing called Muslims and Christians. They're all Egyptians and there's no barriers. Do you think maybe the speed of life, the pace of life, technology, there are a lot of additions that have changed this slightly, or maybe
not at all? I think it's to the better. Because, for example, you have Facebook, okay? So many people have become reunited through Facebook.
Yes.
On Shem al-Nasim, look at the number of good wishes that are published on Facebook, from Muslims to Christians, and from Muslims to all the country. No, I think technology is an asset. It brings people closer together because it's quicker. You have WhatsApp, you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have email, you have so many innovations.
Yeah, exactly. You can reach like hundreds of people, wish them, with
on the spot, on the dot. You don't need, and then so many other social things that happen that you get to know it through the technology. You don't need to go to the place to see it. I mean, look at television and the coverage of television when there is breaking news. You really don't need to go to the United States to watch it, or you don't need to go to Europe or wherever. Football is enough. Across the globe, you see matches that are played in Europe, matches that are played in Africa. I mean, it's connectivity. It's more connectivity, not the opposite. Yes, there are some aspects of the past that are very dear to everyone's heart. Maybe you are very young people, but I have lived that period when people would sit down and color the eggs at night on Sunday and welcome all the friends and family on Monday, and eat all the things that we know on Shem al-Nasim. And now I've lived that beautiful period, but I enjoy the mixture between the past and the present and the pace of technology.
Yes, it's very good.
Yeah, I'm lucky I've done that. I've colored the eggs. I don't know about you, and I've done all these beautiful things. But now that would bring us to the way our youth are celebrating Sham al-Nissim and the idea of the social media, consuming a lot of it. And now that we no longer visit each other, but we just send a picture on Facebook or on the phone with Happy Easter. Now, as a journalist and a person in the media, how do you see the effect of the social media on us as people socializing and connecting together?
Yes, you hit on a valid point, which is that this new technology has lessened the social connectivity between people. But on the other hand, it has increased the connectivity of people. And I am for the new media and the new technology. So I am a great defender of them. I believe that it has, you know, there was such a waste of time in the past, calling on the landline, not getting the number, then waiting. And then even when I was studying abroad, my parents would call the operator to dial the United States of America. Now you don't need all this, you just dial the number.
Yes.
I mean, it cut on time. Technology has given us a way out, not to lose time.
So going back to Sham al-Nissim and the such festivities, how do you see it from a cultural perspective for Egyptian? What does it reflect?
Sham al-Nissim is our oldest feast, I think.
Yes.
It's 7,000 years old. It's a pharaonic feast, and therefore it holds the heritage and history of the country. It embraces it. So when you come to Sham al-Nissim, you remember that you had pharaohs in this country. You remember that you had the oldest history on earth, the greatest country on earth. You remember all these kinds of things. So you feel a lot of proud and pride.
Yes.
And it gives you pride, Sham al-Nissim, especially when people are having fun together, especially in the gardens, when people meet and play around and laugh and joke and have music and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But in the background, there is this richness of Egypt, because it is the feast that has been celebrated for 7,000 years. So it's amazing.
Yes. Is it still the same? Do you think, from 7,000 years, is it changing or?
No, I don't know, because I'm not a historian.
Okay.
So I can't really answer that question. I don't know how did it evolve.
Develop, yeah.
But I think the main dishes that are being eaten on that day are the same dishes that were eaten 7,000 years
Maybe
ago.
Rasha can tell us.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
so.
Yes, it is the same dishes, the salted fish and
Yes.
the onions and going out to the gardens. This is typically ancient Egyptian tradition.
That was the same thing.
That was the same thing, but we do it, of course, due to the modernity of time. We do extra stuff.
Were there any coloring of eggs?
No, that's totally
Nothing
Western,
pharaonic?
because the bunny and the Easter egg and all that. That's
Yeah,
totally
came
Western.
from the West.
But ours, it was celebration of the rebirth with the spring, because that would be the beginning of the harvest season.
Yeah.
So it was more the life to earth rather than the Easter bunny and all that.
So it moved from the agricultural aspect. Maybe that was the trigger.
Yes,
The
it
season.
was the season and the beginning of life. And that would bring us to asking you, as Sharif was asking, if it has changed as an editor-in-chief of a popular magazine. Now, I understand that when there is a special occasion, usually you have special editions. So how did you prepare? What did you do for the past Sham al-Nissim? Did you prepare certain topics that's connected with it, or you just
We
because
prepared
it's
an edition for April,
yes,
which was the spring edition.
yes,
And there are articles on Sham al-Nissim, of course.
yes,
But it wasn't Sham al-Nissim alone, it was the coming of spring.
yes.
And in the next edition in May, it's going to be the coming of Ramadan. In October, we have our annual edition, which is the October War,
Yes.
the pride of every Egyptian. And for me especially, I cherish this war very much. I think it's a masterpiece in Egyptian performance. And therefore, when the October month comes, or before it with 2 months, we prepare for the October edition, which is our monumental edition of the magazine. And then we have other occasions like March, where we have the Mother's Day and Women's Day and Egyptian Women's Day. We had an edition on women, dedicated to women in March.
So you have your hands full throughout the year.
Yeah, rather full, yes, rather full. But it's interesting because you mix up journalism with occasions, events, and Egyptian heritage and tradition. You don't, of course, you don't divorce yourself from what's going on in the country. You have to be part of it. And in a way, because we prefer to defend people's rights, so we have a mix in the magazine of very serious issues that every Egyptian is talking about, and light issues that every Egyptian is seeking to look at. So it's a mixture.
So, speaking about the media, in your opinion, what is from the Egyptian media perspective, what is the media failing to show to the world today?
Here?
Yes.
Well, the media can't show the world anything in Arabic, okay, to start with. And I think maybe Nile TV has a very important task because it's bilingual, and therefore the foreigners can listen to it, watch it, etc., etc. I was very interested to see on one of the Nile TV channels an episode with subtitling in English. And I thought that was very nice because one of our prides in Egypt is our episodes, al-musalsalat.
Yes.
And they attract a lot the viewer. So if we can bring this culture to the outside world, they might understand us better because it's easier to understand.
Yes. Very good point.
I mean, an outsider would not understand why the children are in the streets, or why the man marries more than one woman, or why divorce is happening in the way it is happening. But these episodes explain the social fabric of the country. Not that I say that what I mentioned are good things. No, they are very bad things. But they are present, and therefore you need to put the good and the bad together.
So we need to select the best episodes and then do subtitles, episodes that would reflect the society in Egypt as a message to the outside world through drama.
Yeah, you need a balanced episode, and I think that Nile TV can do a great job because this is what we need now. We need a channel that speaks to the world. Because the Egyptian channels are marvelous, the ones that are run in Arabic. I mean, they have everything, entertainment, sports, politics, programs, everything. And they're great, but they're so local and so focused on the nitty-gritties of everyday life, which is natural. I mean, they're in Egypt. But Nile TV is at another level.
Thank you.
Do you think that there should be more of English-speaking media channels in Egypt to reflect the culture and to tell more stories about what's happening here?
No, I think that, duplicating and doing more and spending money and this is waste money. To me, it's waste money. I would upgrade the current services.
Focus
you
more.
have already, I don't know how many Nile channels. Drama, culture, of course English, French, and so on and so forth. Why don't we lift those up, put the money that was going to be dedicated to a new channel in those channels?
Yes.
And I think if we do this in every sector, instead of spending money worthless of its value, it's going to be worthless because you're throwing money, and until this picks up, it will take 1 or 2 years, but you have already established channels that are famous, that are well-known, and well-known internationally.
Now, as we're talking about the role of the media, Recently, the National Council for Media has been established. It has 3 sections, one for the media, as television, and journalism, as well as other, and of course the quality. Now, as a journalist, do you feel that actually these smaller council under the big umbrella of the National Council of Media, do you feel that these will be a better model than the ones before?
Well, I really have to be extremely honest in my answer. First of all, the person who heads the higher council for media and journalism is a great journalist, Makram Muhammad Ahmad.
Yes.
And he's a friend of mine. I have greatest respect for him. I really think he did wonders in his career as a journalist and, of course, as chairman and editor-in-chief of Al-Musawwar and etc. in his different roles. But let's wait and see what they will do. Because we are in a stage now where there is a lot of grumbling about the media, whether it is printed or audiovisual.
Yes.
And we would like to see what these people will do. For example, I was very offended from a story that I heard yesterday. I heard that the person who is on leave from a newspaper pays the newspaper a big fee to continue on leave. But why? Why force him to pay that amount of money while he is in another country? You know, al-ghurba, I mean, being away from your own country. You can pay money on being away? I mean, I find it ridiculous. And I find it really unjust. And if I were one of those people who were paying this fee to a newspaper in Egypt, I would put this the first thing on the agenda of the new council, the Journalism Council, to change it immediately, effective tomorrow.
Yes.
I think that even as journalists, there are so many issues. Like, I understand that sometimes people would work for more than 10 years without having a post, like they are just like freelancers, and it takes a while before writing a contract or even having a place, a permanent place in the establishment.
But I think this applies to the private
it's all over the
newspapers.
Newspapers as well.
Not,
yes. Not just the governmental ones.
No, not in the governmental, because I think they come in.
But I understand, because I had friends who worked in some of the public sector establishments as well. They were for 7 years working before they could be
well, Anna, I don't know
involved.
really, because I'm a little bit away from
what's going
the
on,
administration of the newspaper.
Heard about such problems.
No, I heard among the private sector newspapers that there is a lot of problems for people who work there, and sometimes they get their pay, sometimes they don't get their pay. I heard about, of course, hiring and firing problems. All these I heard concerning the private sector section.
So do you feel we need better laws to protect the journalist, and also, like, we need 2 laws, one to protect the journalist and one to limit to what extent the damage can be caused if a journalist misled the public? Do you feel that we need something like that?
I would go for the first part of it.
The first part only.
Let's consolidate the aspect of freedom of expression.
Even if it was damaging?
No, damaging, no. There must be a law to stop abuse of the profession. But it has to be real abuse. I mean, not only, you know, somebody from...
a gossip or hearsay.
Somebody wrote something and said, you know, this guy said so and so, okay, get him. No. But I would go first for consolidating freedom of opinion and expression, and then after and regulating the business in terms of hiring and firing and salaries and upgrading the salaries of journalists and media people.
Yes.
Because as you know, I mean, you are the public sector, okay?
Yes.
The private sector in television, they get as anchor women and anchor men, I don't know, humongous amounts of money.
Yes.
While in the public sector TV, I don't think it is the same.
No, no.
And therefore,
Uncomparable.
you must come to a conclusion that this should be regulated. You can't have people who are earning £100 and others who are earning $10,000. It can't go on like that. Because first of all, both are doing the same job. And I don't believe that the audience of the person who gets the $10,000 is more than the audience of the person who gets £100. It's the limitation of the institution, not the limitation of the person.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, journalist and writer Mrs. Hedayat Abdel, Nabi, as well as editor-in-chief of one of the prominent magazines. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we will be going out to a quick break, but we'll be coming for more on Nile Cruise, so stay with us.